together, that now I can smile because writing was my first step. The second thing was, am I able to talk about this? Because in the Time Enlightenment series, I wasn't able to talk to anybody without crying, without feeling that pain of she's not there. But as I began to build this spiritual self-confidence back, or I began to see the world differently, when I walk out of my door now, I begin to realize I'm not where I need to be, clearly. But my writings has given me that first step, which is to realize that I am now the controller of my fate. Like, my mom is not here. I do miss her, but I know she will want me to carry this mantle for her and not to give up on my own life when I thought that it was, like, not even possible to accomplish a dream. But that first step is writing for me. It may be something different for your audience, but it has to be a first step. Every morning that you get up, there has to be a first step. What do you plan to do this day to make your life whole?
How did your faith help you in your time of loss, and how has your faith helped you become the poet you are?
Well, in the beginning, my mom used to, like, tell us all to go to church, and I would do that. And she would always, like, give me verses from the Bible, and I would listen to that. But I loved her so much, though. I mean, I can't explain to you how much I loved her, so I was willing to listen to anything. But when you're young, you still got to do what young people do, and I'm not trying to excuse anything, but when she would say that to me, I'd be like, yes, Mom, but I need to go hang out with my friends. Yes, Mom, but I need to try to go after my dream. But she would say, always keep God on your mind. And when you're a teenager, you're like, okay, I understand. And a lot of my writings kind of show that in Time Enlightenment, and even now I understand. So when I got older and I got to college, she would still say, keep God on your mind. And I would go to church then, but my faith wasn't quite instilled into me in terms of this is where I need to be. But I knew she gave me something to hold on to. So when she passed away, those verses that she gave me, that thing about keeping God forever on your mind, so that even when things are stressful, that you can make it through the tough times. So when she passed away, if I can say to you about stress, in my physical world and my mental world, there was a lot of stress. But I think that the spiritual side of me, I think that the God side that exists in all of us was telling me, well, you know that death is permanent. You understand that, but you can't mentally grasp that. So start writing. And when I started writing, I began to see, I thought God wasn't on my side. I thought that God had abandoned me. I thought that God just had left me out there to cause me more pain. But what I realized is that as I was writing, that God was always by my side. I just couldn't see it at the time. But now I see it clearly like a sunset. I see it clearly like the water that falls from clouds. I can feel it when the rain hit my face. In the beginning, I couldn't do that because I was just too mad at God and everything else. But now I understand that not only am I going to lose someone, but someone in your audience is going to lose someone.
Yep.
Someone in the world right now may be losing someone. And I always think that the spiritual world is saying, this is going to happen, but what do you do to make your life make sense?
Can you read some of your poems for us?
Rob, let me see, can I give you one that, I would try to give you the one that I think that started it all, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
And the very first one that I wrote was called, it's titled, Here We Go. And it was written on June the 21st, 2000. And that was like, 6 months after my mom passed. And it starts off, it says, here we go, right at the beginning, where all things seem to want to end. Here we go, never looking at the universe. Here we go, never looking or listening to the sun, the rain, the clouds, and all things natural. Here we go, never questioning the things within, where all confusion starts and where things never end. Here we start rising, here we start trying to rise above a cloud when we are not wise. Here we start to leave our bed when our minds and hearts are never really fed. Through confusion, we move because we think that we have a groove, never knowing we are playing a game where most of us lose. Here we start to question from our bed. Here we start with an answer in our head. We are questioning now, and we begin to see that we can remove the clouds and really begin to understand me. We have found a simple key to life, love, and the end of misery. For if you can question your inner soul, there will be a key for your simple soul to behold. Life made easy, can't you see? Once you begin to question, then you begin to see that life, love, and misery all begins with me.
Wow.
That's the very first one that, if I could say to you, Rob, that spiritually started my journey. And that's the one I think my mom was just telling me, son, I think you're going to be okay. And from there, it was just a blur. I've been writing ever since for 14 years now.
How many books all told have you written? 10 books?
Yeah, I think right now I'm publishing number 7, which is Soul Splitting Volume 2. Mm-hmm. But I've written all 10 of them. They've already been written. The next 5 they're already been written, and Ex Libris is publishing those 5 for me. But I'm now into book 11 or 12. I haven't counted, maybe 13, because I write so much. And the funny thing, though, Rob, is like in the beginning, when I started writing, everything was a blur. I was writing at all time of the day and night, no matter what the situation may be. Sometimes I would wake up and have to compose a piece and lay back down and go to sleep. Sometimes I'll be driving to work and a piece will stay with me forever. But when have you ever had that point where you get to a realization and things slow down?
Yeah.
That's what happened. I think what initially God was like saying to me, okay, I just need you to write. Don't even worry about it. But when I begin to get clarity, like when I get to soul splitting, it began to slow down a little bit, because I think that I began to realize that not only was God on my side, if that makes any sense, that my mother somewhere in the spiritual world was trying to tell me that, yo, it's okay, son, just continue to do what you do. Your pain is not as great anymore. And it's not as great now with me talking to you. I don't have those tears that will be readily to pour out of me. I don't have that sadness that would make me feel like I need to be depressed. I'm in that place where I understand what my life means, and I understand what she meant to me.
How do you demonstrate to children that they can dream big? It's hard being a kid these days. Yeah,
it is. So what I would do is, like, sometimes kids, they just need you to be playful with them. They just need you to be able to talk their language, or at least say something. So initially what it would start off with, it would be like, oh, you know, you smart, you could do anything you want. And then they would smile at that. And then I'll be like, you know, you're going to be wiser than me one day. You're going to own a business bigger than me one day. And then they'll talk back to you. But then at the end, you just say to them, you know, you can do whatever you want to do if you just can find a way to put your mind to it. And I even say that to my little niece when she was younger, because I told my sister, in order for her to dream big, you have to have her to think big. So whenever I run into a child, I try to make sure that they understand that I was once where they were, and I know that's really hard to say when they see you as an adult, but then I go down to the level and say, you know, if you think well and if you want to do this, then you can do that if you want to. And sometimes, some reason they get it, like when they come back and see me again, they kind of remember who you are because you said that. And then I just had some young men I spoke to, I think when they was like in the 5th grade, and they saw me again when they were in the 10th grade and the 8th grade. They remember who I was, and I was just surprised because when they ran up on me, I didn't know who they were. I was just trying to place. No, I was just trying to place who they were, and then they began to tell me who they were. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I remember. You were the group that I had spoken to. Then they clearly remembered that, and what I did, I always gave them encouraging words. I never really talked down to them. I really tried to talk on their level, but at the same time, try to get them to understand you can do what anybody else do if you put your mind to it. And just like you said in the beginning, it's going to take hard work, though. Yeah. It's not going to be easy. Like, even when I was writing Rob, I knew that my soul was, like, vexed, but I knew it was hard work, but I had to get it out. Like, sometime I would write and I would cry, and I didn't understand why I was crying, but then I wrote one called Crying, because crying is the only way that you can heal. And I would tell a kid, it's okay to cry. You know, you'll stop crying, and when you stop crying, you just get out and do big things.
Yeah. Why do you think children aren't given that encouragement that it's okay to dream big?
Well, I think that some people feel like, for me, when I started writing, well, when I was little, I just had a dream of just trying to take care of her, because she was doing so much to just take care of her kids. It was like my heart was still sad, because every morning it was like, I got to feed you, I got to clothe you. Just that laborious work that all women do to take care of their kids. And sometimes kids, they get lost in the shuffle because we're always trying to provide for them. But sometimes the simplest thing you can do is just have a conversation with them, like just play with them. And we don't really do that because we're so technology driven, or we're just so like, what is the next thing for me, that we miss the smile of that little child, or we miss that little child just, wanting to be playful. And we as adults, we get so caught up into our daily routine that it's really hard for that child to connect with that. But someone somewhere has to tell a child that you have every right to dream, just as anybody who created anything that you see, you have the right to create your own reality.
You see, I've always believed, LeRoy, that the only difference between a dream and reality is just doing it. The dream is the idea.
Exactly.
Getting it to the point where it's actually done is the work process. So I admire you for the way that you work with children and give them the hope, because that's what dreaming does. It gives hope.
Yes.
And Lord knows the kids have it really hard these days. They deserve they're not kids as long as you and I used to be.
No, yeah. Just so much. It's so much that just drives the mental framework of adults first, if I can say that, because we were all once kids ourselves. The framework that drives us as older adults today is like, I think it's time 25 now. So, but you got to take a little kid, and they don't have that so-called innocent where you learn, where we got so much technology in front of them that, to me, I'm glad to see it, because it shows you how smart they is. Like my little nephew, I used to try to play them with that Madden football game. I'm still learning how to use all the buttons, but he's already mastered it, so he'll beat me 105-7. But I don't understand but his mind had adapted so quick. But then when you just sit down and tell me a story, where the creative juice is not there because they spend so much time doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But every now and then a child needs to be taken for a walk somewhere and just say to me, well, just tell me a story.
Yeah. And what children really need, and this is my opinion, parents have to say to their children 3 little words that mean the world to any child. I love you.
Yes.
Give your child a hug. Let them know that they're loved. Give them I can remember ever since I was a kid, while I was living at home, I always got a good night kiss from my mom and dad.
Yeah.
It meant the world to me.
Yes. And my mom was the same way. She would always tell us, and I'll give you an example. If I was bad, I was bad, and she would tell me I was bad, and I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then she would just say to me that, I'm not going to be with you forever, but you got to understand, you got to have, good behavior. And she would always tell us that she loved us. And sometimes when you're small, you just take that for granted because it's just like, that's just things that mom say, because I can just go back to
Hey, LeRoy, I hate to do this, old friend. You and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be back. LeRoy Flemming is my guest, and we'll be back on the other side of this short break. Don't go away.
Oh, Rob, I didn't expect to go that fast.
With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. LeRoyFlemming.com.